Hello again, Roy here with another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I'm so glad that you decided to come along and join me. I am your host, Roy Garden, and again, we've got a lot of news going on from the Trump administration this past week. Some of it's very tragic, and some of it is very questionable. So, having said that, I think we need to go ahead and get on to this right away. In fact, the lead story that I'm going to have here is, of course, our top story, and that is the sad situation that the one of the two National Guard people that were in the station in Washington, D.C. has passed away, and Donald Trump announced that. And that is, of course, sadly, is Sarah Beckstrom, who was just 20 years old, died from her injuries, while the second National Guard member, 24-year-old Andrew Wolf, is still fighting for his life and is listed in critical condition. And this is just such sad situation that has been going on there in Washington, D.C. I don't know how else to explain it. It to me, it's just tragic stuff. And when I say tragic, I mean tragic. To see these two people just taken down, and again, they're still investigating this. They don't know if it was just a lone wolf situation or whether there was an agenda. They just don't have any information. But Trump did announce just this past Thursday about the death of Sarah. Both were shot at close range near Farragut Square in downtown Washington, D.C., just 2 blocks from the White House, just after 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this past Wednesday. Police have arrested one suspect in the shooting, and we do have a graphic of that individual because there's a lot of backstory on this individual. And that is Ramanhula Lakwala. He is a 29-year-old Afghanistan. And the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. announced the initial charges of assault of this suspect will be upgraded to murder in the first degree with the passing of Sarah. And they're just calling it was an ambush with a gun towards people who didn't know what was coming. The two soldiers who were attacked had been deployed to the American Capitol as part of the Trump administration efforts to crack down on the city of Washington, D.C., although there hasn't been any factual information as to these National Guard troops are actually needed there. In fact, a federal judge had blocked and considered the deployment of the National Guards as illegal. And with the death of Sarah, unfortunately, Trump says now he wants 500 more individual troops stationed in Washington, D.C. And again, it's sad that this whole thing has had to turn into a political mess as it is. Going back to a little bit about this individual from Afghanistan, he came into the United States in 2021 under a program that was implemented by the Biden administration following the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, what is interesting here is the Trump administration is the one that approved that this individual could stay in the U.S. So, although you're now, I just hate that we have to turn this into a political situation with the death of Sarah and the other National Guard person hanging on to dear life. It's just sad. And I do not want any Republican, spinning this that this is all the fault of the Biden administration, because it is not. It is the Trump administration, and all the new agencies had come out on this, is the one that approved that this individual had the ability to stay in the United States. And it also came out that this individual is now associated with the CIA. according to the agency's director, John Ratcliffe. And he was granted asylum in April by the Trump administration. As I just stated, multiple law enforcement officials had confirmed this to news agencies. Trump called the shooting an act of terror in remarks from his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. Just this past Wednesday, the president called for a re-examination of every person from Afghanistan who came to the United States under the President Joe Biden and criticized what he claimed there were millions of unknown and unvetted foreigners. But again, the Trump administration vetted this guy and gave him permission to be in the U.S., and he had Central Intelligence Agency's ties when he was younger, when he was over in Afghanistan. Now, please, let's just stop the political bouncing back and forth over this. Again, the suspect was here since 2021. In fact, September 8th to be exact, and he's part of the program called Operation Allies Welcome. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said Wednesday night. He was granted asylum earlier this year under the Trump administration after applying in 2024 for multiple law enforcement officials did, of course, I just mentioned, confirmed that more than 190,000 Afghanistans have been resettled in the United States under both operations of the Allies Welcome and the program that replaced it, now known as Enduring Welcome, according to the State Department. So, my final say on this is, me personally, I don't think, these lives could have been spared, or this one life, and again, the other one's hanging on to just by a needle. I don't know why we need troops in Washington, D.C. in the first place. The Capitol Police there and everybody else has done an outstanding job. And now Trump says he wants 500 more troops. In fact, and again, a federal judge has ruled that the National Guard troops in the Washington, D.C. area is illegal in the first place for deployment. And now we've lost a dear life. I just don't get it. I really don't. And, it's just so sad that Sarah had to lose life. She's such a young person at 20 years of age. And her previous boyfriend that just recently broke up he's just brokenhearted over this situation. And, of course, her family. And my prayers go out to Sarah, and I pray the other soldier will make it through. And, again, this is also unnecessary. They had no business being there in the first place. But, again, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And hopefully we can get the troops out of Washington, D.C. altogether. Moving on to other news, Moscow has poured doubt in Donald Trump's assertion that Vladimir Putin is making concessions as Ukraine agreed to a peace proposal in principle. Kremlin spokesman Peskov has said that it was premature to say whether a peace deal was close, as Trump has insisted his negotiations were making great progress in discussions with both sides. Trump had assured that Russia was cooperating with the proposals, and he was offering a promise to stop fighting after Ukraine was forced to weigh in minimal concessions presented in draft. Kremlin aide Yuri Oskov has said this past Wednesday, that the talks with the U.S. in Abu Dhabi this week did not discuss peace terms at all. So here you go again with Trump saying, hey, everything's going great. We're making great strides. And, of course, Russia saying, not so fast. And this always goes on, with Trump. He likes to spin a positive spin on everything, that everything's going great and beautiful. And then Russia, of course, when they get to the press, they say not so fast. He said that they still require serious analysis. Moscow is now looking to receive the United States envoy Steve Witkoff to discuss a possible end to the war as soon as next week, after Trump waived his Thursday deadline for Ukraine to agree to terms. Remember this? Trump said that you got to Thanksgiving and you better sign on the dotted line. And, of course, that's come and gone. So, again, with Donald Trump, you just got to take everything he says with a grain of salt. The guy loves to go on about beautiful things, great things, everything's wonderful, and then of course time comes and goes, and that's how you got the nickname, Taco. Trump always waffles. He makes concessions and then goes on and then says other things, and I want peace at the Ukraine. I want peace in Palestine. I want all this crap to come to a screeching halt and end as soon as possible. But, when you're dealing with countries like this, with Russia and then, of course, Israel and Palestine, and it goes on and on. Getting back to Ukraine, they said that, okay, you can have a little piece of this land if you want, and let's just get this thing to a screeching halt. Too many lives have been lost. And, of course, Russia, they're actually pulling the strings here. I mean, it already came out in the news that, the peace deal all favors Russia and nothing for Ukraine. And, Putin, has got Trump over a barrel. But I hope to God that that this thing comes to a screeching halt. I really, really do, because it's getting to the point now that it's got to stop. It just actually does. All right, moving on to other news. A group of Democratic lawmakers who encourage United States troops to disobey any orders they deem illegal are pushing back on an alleged federal inquiry into their actions. U.S. Senator Elisa Slotkin of Michigan said that the FBI notified the 6 lawmakers of its investigation on Monday. Good old Kash Patel, by God, let's get in there and take care of this, And again, Kash is already in trouble. I'm going to get to that a little bit later on my podcast here. But, Trump ordered the FBI to take a look at these 6 Dems and see if they made illegal comments in reference to their video. And in case you missed it, here's that video I'm speaking about.
I'm Senator Elisa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Now, Trump said that he branded this video seditious behavior, and no amount of intimidation or harassment will ever stop us from doing our jobs. So said the Democrats. And 4 Democrats in the United States House of Representatives both said the same thing. We have the right to speak out. It's our First Amendment rights and our free speech to say what we want to say. And all we're saying is that to the United States military soldiers who are out there, that if you feel that what you're doing is unconstitutional, you do have the right to not obey those certain orders. Now, they're basically referring to these basically National Guard troops who are federalized and on domestic soil here in the United States about doing just harm to United States citizens. And this goes back to this ungodly, unfortunate instance where we lost 2 National Guard personnel in Washington, D.C. It was already stated that, Sarah herself had mixed feelings about going to Washington, D.C., but she did her military duty and decided to go. And look what happened to her. And this is all this is about. If you've seen the video and I just showed it, they're not saying disobey orders. They're just saying, if you feel that the orders that you are given violate the Constitution of the United States in reference to what you feel that you're doing, then you have the moral right to say, hey, is this actually right? So, and of course, the Pentagon has previously announced that it will review serious allegations of misconduct against Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. So, now that's going on. And this guy right here, Pete Hegseth, Macho Man, has decided that he may bust the rank of Senator Mark Kelly by one rank and also maybe take away his pension. Now, he appeared on Tuesday on national news, and he said that the FBI requested interviews with the 6 Democrat politicians, and Pete Hegseth is also looking about, their military record. We're not talking court-martial yet, but that has been discussed. For God's sakes, where the hell is this going, So anyway, when Kelly was asked by a national public radio about the matter later in a broadcast earlier this week, he said that the Sergeant of Arms got something in an email. We are going to take a look at it. And the Sergeant of Arms in each Chamber of Commerce acts as that chamber's chief law enforcement officer. They are tasked with maintaining congressional rules, which can include arresting lawmakers, though they have not been involved in any other recent criminal investigations. So now that the Department of Justice, the FBI, are all looking at these 6 Dems, whether they should actually be arrested now for their comments. And it goes on and on. This is just getting way out of hand, for people who are exercising their freedom of speech. And they do understand the Constitution, even though the others may not. So, now they go on to get misconduct charges against Mark Kelly. Now, Mark Kelly is a decorated veteran. He's a U.S. astronaut, and this is what he's now getting against him because, Pete Hegseth and everybody else thinks that what they were stating is just terrible comments, so... these 6 Democrats were brave souls to go ahead and say what they're saying. And again, they never said that you should disobey orders. They just said, think about the Constitution if you think what you're doing is in violation of the Constitution. And Mark Kelly, of course, has been standing ground. He's actually, saying, go ahead and make my day kind of thing. He says, we'll never give up the ship, and Trump is just, he's just beside himself, said, lock them up, they should be arrested. He even said that, hang them, if you remember, if you want to watch my last podcast, I covered a lot of this stuff in detail, what he said. And to me, it's just getting way out of hand. This video has been making the rounds on social media, and even attorneys have said these 6 Democrats have said nothing that would require them to be arrested or hang or put to death. They're exercising their freedom of speech and their freedom of expression, and that's all there is to it. You can take what they say with a grain of salt, but so far, everybody has said that these 6 Democrats have said absolutely nothing wrong. All right? So, and even though Mark Kelly wants to go ahead and said they have violated rank and service affiliation, and that they need to be busted in rank and they need to be perhaps court-martialed, that's just, Pete Hegseth on his rant and rave about macho military and rah, 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 and, do changing things in the Department of War, and we're big tough men now, and big tough women, and you can't say things like that, and by God, I'll make sure that you're going to be taken care of. So, that's where it's going. And it's, the way I'm saying it, though, if they do bust Mark Kelly and they get a Democratic president there, it'll just restore his rank and also all the back pay that he may lost. So it's just, it's reckless is really what it is. So, and speaking of the FBI, let's take a look now at Mr. Kash Patel. So this guy, he's in hot water. He's come under fire for using taxpayer-funded resources like government planes and even SWAT for protection for personal reasons. When his girlfriend, country singer Alexis Wilkins, performed at an NRA convention, she had an FBI SWAT team as her bodyguard. Yeah, wow. And the agents were members of a special unit trained to rescue hostages and penetrate barricaded buildings, according to the New York Times. Once the team had secured the convention center, they departed. But Patel didn't like that. He repeatedly lambasted the team's commander for leaving Wilkins without protection while she chatted with fans on the convention floor. Hey, that's my girlfriend, by God, you need to watch out for her, I don't care who you are. I'm the FBI director. Take care of my little sweetie over there. So it's just the latest instance of Patel using taxpayer-funded resources for his own personal activities. He's been treating specialized FBI agents like they're, his own little butlers and butlesses and, everything else, and servants. And he's also making sure that they provide private security to his girlfriend, as well as jet setting across the globe on government planes, going to concerts and everything else. Former FBI agent Christopher O'Leary criticized Patel's actions, telling the New York Times that his use of the private plane and SWAT agents for his girlfriend's detail are indicative of his lack of leadership experience, judgment, and humility. And so, Patel's been doing all this, especially with his girlfriends, to show off what a big guy he is. And, thousands and thousands of dollars of our taxpayer dollars have been given to Patel to fly those jets. You know how much fuel they use per hour. I mean, think of Air Force One when Trump goes back and forth from Mar-a-Lago 2 or 3 times a week, and or globe hopping across the U.S. and the Secret Service detail. And Patel with his own FBI detail, security detail, and he's going to concerts and stuff and hanging out with his girlfriend, and you and I are all paying for that. Do you think that's right? I don't think so. Again, Trump is still backing Patel, said he's doing a great job. The other thing that Patel's been getting in trouble with is every time there's an incident going on, he spills all the beans and details about how it happened, what's going on, what the FBI is doing, and perhaps giving away classified information as to what, where, and how when an incident does occur. He's not, which a good defense attorney can pick that all up and say, oh, okay, great, So even though publicly Trump is saying, I totally support Patel, there has been some behind-the-scenes stuff going on that perhaps they may be considering replacing Kash Patel. So news sources citing 3 unidentified people with knowledge of the situation said that Trump and his top aides have grown increasingly frustrated by the unflattering headlines Patel has generated, and they have confided to allies that Trump's weighing removing Patel and considering Andrew Bailey as the FBI's co-deputy director as his replacement if Patel continues to, create negative headlines. Trump does not like any kind of negative anything when it comes to him and his administration. And again, this has recently happened. An ABC News reporter has been disciplined and suspended. I don't know if they'll get their job back or not, because Caroline Levitt whined and bellyached to ABC News that this guy was asking unflattering questions to President Trump, and they didn't like it. Again, this White House and this administration wants to control the media, all the major networks, and just do nothing but report favorable, positive things about this administration. If you say anything negative, we don't like it, and now that we control the FCC, we'll sick them on you, so you can perhaps lose your broadcast license, or we're going to make things extremely miserable for you. So we're telling all you in the media, when we say jump, you're going to say how high. And you have no right to criticize anybody. There is no freedom of the press in this administration unless you say nice things. So this is the most recent thing that has happened. So, this is what we've got now, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, the director of the National Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense has previously called for stripping the FBI of its intelligence gathering role and purging its ranks of any employee who refuses to support Trump's agenda. And of course, Caroline Leavitt, whom I just mentioned, she's saying this stuff's all made up, about Patel and his jet and his going to concerts and his girlfriend. Although, it's all out there for everybody to see. It's all been documented. And but of course, Caroline Leavitt, she's that other person in the White House that she'll cover Trump's hind end and everybody else in his administration and say whatever they tell her to say. She's young, she's vulnerable, and again, of all the White House press people that I have seen, she's one of the only one, in fact, in my years of work seeing. I've actually worked on visited and worked with the White House press corps once in my professional life as a journalist, so I know how these people work. And it's just although they're supposed to give positive spins on everything, some of her stuff is so far off in left field that it's actually kind of funny. So she posted a photo of Trump and Patel that she said was taking the Oval Office this past Tuesday, all buddy-buddy, arms around each other. Hey, I like this guy. He's so great. And they were in a meeting, and they're working hard, and he has nothing but positive things to say about, Kash Patel. So, it's just how these people do things. So, and now we have got to move on to something that's very, very interesting. And that, of course, is what's going on in Venezuela. Now, Colombian President Gustavo Petro said in a news interview that oil is actually the real reason of all this stuff going on in Venezuela. And what we're having going on here now with Venezuela is President Trump, in his push to control so-called illegal drugs coming out of Venezuela, that he is actually now considering putting boots on the ground in Venezuela. Watch this brief clip.
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
Now, as you watch this video with the president of Venezuela, again, with the Colombian president who has full knowledge of what's going on in Venezuela, he said that oil is actually the center of all of this, and the Trump administration's pressure campaign on Venezuela, instead of the fight against narcotics, it's really about oil. And I tend to agree with him. I don't care where we actually do our fighting. Well, I do care, but, in the Middle East, going clear back to, President Reagan and our other presidents that we have had, it's all about oil. It really is. When you get down to the brass tactics, whether it's Bush, whether it's Obama, when we get into situations in the Middle East and now with Venezuela, it's about the oil. We want to control their oil. And if you stop and think about it, that's really what it is. Now, with this present administration, they can talk narcotics all you want. I mean, of all these people that have been killing out at sea in these boats, they all say, hey, they were carrying drugs. Yet we have not seen anything that these boats that they're blowing up have had narcotics on them. In other words, show us the proof. And they haven't done that. Well, it all got blew up with a boat. We can't go recover that. And they show the videos, but where's the drugs? I mean, I'm not saying there weren't drugs there. Maybe there were, All we're saying is show us the proof. And they cannot do that. And now they want to go in with CIA, troops and background of certain people going there in a covert operations, and now perhaps put our military in there. We already got the whole side of the country surrounded with our ships, and whether they're going to start launching missiles and guns at their shorelines, I don't know. But this guy's pretty much on target. It's really about the oil that's there. I mean, I want the drug stop too. That's great. You know, if we can stop the narcotics coming in the United States, that would be wonderful. But I bet you, like this guy is saying, when you really get into the crux of things, it's about the oil. And I think this guy is right on. So, as this guy said, he's not thinking about the democratization of Venezuela, let alone the narcotics trafficking. The South American president said, who last month was sanctioned by the Trump administration for even opening his mouth and talking about oil. So the defense officials have carried out more than a dozen strikes in the Caribbean region in recent weeks, targeting alleged narco-terrorists, despite conflicting reports from surrounding nations. However, Venezuela is not a large producer of fentanyl, and the Drug Enforcement Agency also said in 2020 estimated that around 74% of the cocaine in the United States travels through the Pacific, not the Caribbean. So you got to take a look at that. I mean, it's been recorded that a lot of the narcotics that comes in the United States is from the Pacific region, not the Caribbean, not the Atlantic, not from Venezuela. But again, military officers did confirm no cocaine found aboard the ships struck by the United States Armed Forces. No cocaine, no drugs. And, no Colombian investigation is showing us a relationship between Colombian drug trafficking and Venezuela, the president, Maduro. So the remarks came as the Trump administration had intensified its efforts to get this guy out of office, Maduro. So the White House recently labeled the Maduro-linked cartel de los Solos as a foreign terrorist organization, so that gives them more authority to, carry out these strikes, granting the United States opportunity to use lethal force against the entity under that particular clause, and any parties tied to it. So Trump said he might talk to Maduro soon, but not specify the objective of the strikes on Venezuela. So here you go. To summarize all this, they keep talking about all the drugs that are on these boats. They're blowing them up in international waters. They use that one clause about anti-terrorists, so it gives the Trump administration to do what he's doing without authority from Congress. And now he's saying he's getting ready to perhaps put boots on the ground and using perhaps CIA operatives to continue to look for those so-called isolated drug strongholds in Venezuela. It's all about getting Maduro out of office so they can find really somebody friendly so they can continue to monitor the oil that's in Venezuela. And there is a lot of oil in Venezuela. And as I just said in this report, over 75% of the drugs that come in the U.S. come from the Pacific region, not from the Atlantic region, and not from the Caribbean area. Although I'm sure there's some, but again, we don't know because we don't ever see any proof. They blow these boats up with people in them, and they don't produce any drugs. So, but they've had a couple seen. Well, this came from that boat, and they'll show some stashed drugs and stuff from the cameras. How do we know that? But so it goes. So it goes. Yeah, So let's move on to some other news. This is actually kind of good news, and this has to deal with James Comey and Miss James. Yeah, a federal judge dismissed the cases against two of the President Trump's political adversaries this past Monday after finding that the prosecutor Trump handpicked to pursue charges against them was awfully unappointed. She absolutely had no authority to actually prosecute these particular two people. So U.S. District Judge Cameron Curry said that Lindsay Halligan, this lady right here, The U.S. attorney that was selected by Trump to prosecute former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Comey-James was never eligible to assume the post. A 120-day clock on interim appointments expired during the previous prosecutor's tenure, the judge said, meaning that the authority to appoint a replacement fell within the district's federal judges, not Attorney General Pam Bondi. So if you remember about all of this stuff, Pam Bondi appointed this lady here who had absolutely zero experience in handling anything. She was a former news journalist. She didn't do things right, but Pam Bondi, because Trump told her to, appointed this lady to handle the charges against Comey-James and James Comey. And it all went south. The grand jury, everything. It just went all south. And she had no authority in the first place to even bring charges against him. So the judge dismissed this with prejudice, which means that if they can get their act together, they can still bring charges against Comey and James later on. But I don't know how well that's going to happen, because every other previous attorney general said there's nothing there to charge these two people. Yet, this lady got the grand jury together, and she didn't even provide them with half the information that she was supposed to. And of course, the grand jury is just acting on what she said. So the judge has thrown it out. So right now, these two people have, don't have any charges against them. So again, the Curry repeating the paragraph word for word in her ruling dismissing James's case. She dismissed the indictments without prejudice, said meaning that the Justice Department could try to bring the charges again with another prosecutor, though the path forward is really uncertain how that's going to happen. So Halligan is the fourth U.S. attorney loyal to Trump to have been found to be unlawfully serving in her post by a judge. Comey and James mounted parallel bids to disqualify Halligan from their cases. She was the sole prosecutor who sought their indictments from grand juries, which they claim rendered the charging document void and required dismissal ahead of their trials. The post opened up for Halligan after the district's previous top prosecutor, Eric Siebert, resigned rather than try to prosecute these two. And of course, Trump got pissed off at him and said, fine, I'll find somebody else. These two, charged me all awfully and stuff, and they made my life miserable, and they're going to go down. And so you just find somebody that can prosecute these people, because I'm not going to tolerate anybody pushing me around. And of course, he went after Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi said, okay, I'll take care of it. I'll find somebody. I'm sorry, Mr. President, and I serve you. So anyway, so there you go. And down she went. Yeah, with so little to work with. And yet she tried to bring these two up on charges. And of course, a good federal judge looked at her work and her stuff that she did and said, you don't have anything here, lady. So dismissed with prejudice, and hopefully if they ever get any other charges brought up, it may be well into the late in Trump's tenure as our president, and maybe nothing will happen, because it's going to be really difficult. Like I said, when you've got other very knowledgeable attorney generals said there is nothing there that Comey did wrong or James did wrong, there's just not enough evidence there to bring charges up against them. They know what they're talking about. But then Trump tries to find, somebody else that's loyal to him to try to bring up these charges. And again, the judge's going to say, if you're going to try to bring charges, do it right. And there you go. So that is my podcast for The Left Has Right. I hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to your comments. Again, my deepest sympathy for Sarah, and I hope the other soldier pulls through. It's just so damn sad that this even had to happen in the first place. Again, a federal judge has ruled that the troops that are in Washington D.C. are illegal, but Trump continues just to thumb his nose and continues to do what Trump likes to do, and this is what happens. Dear God, I just hope that we can get through all this and things can work out. And my deepest sympathy to Sarah's family. All right. You try to have a good week. Until next time, we'll talk later.